Singabelanga bahamba ngeteksi kaJawu uyazi.
Umqoqo.
Besingazi ukuthi iteksi izomethwa ku roadblock by check.
Beningazi nini lo?
Hello everyone, welcome to ASR, African Stories Realized. This is our weekly review of The Wife, Season 2. Let's jump right into it. Episode 13 opens up with Zandile and Nkosana resting peacefully in each other's arms, but that peace is quickly abrupted by a jailhouse call from MQOQI informing him that he's been arrested for the possession of drugs while in the process of transporting them to Durban. ZAZA acts surprised but remains silent with guilt written all over her face. The following morning, Nkosana confronts his other siblings to find out if any one of them had any involvement in this drug business with MQOQI. After the family meeting, ZAZA runs to MANDISA to update her on MQOQI's arrest. ZAZA was ready to confess to Nkosana, but MANDISA convinces her not to say anything and reassures her that Nkosana and the lawyers will handle it. Bad advice from MANDISA. Nkosana would have been disappointed in ZAZA, but he would have definitely forgiven her. Back at the house, Nkosana returns with confirmation that the commissioner has been shot and killed. Hlomu watched on as MQHELE and NQOBA sarcastically toast to his death. SAMBULO sits quietly as his two brothers celebrate. In the next scene, we cut to Lux's office where Hlomu has been called in to investigate the death of the commissioner. It's at this moment that she realizes that her in-laws might have had something to do with it. SAMBULO visits MQOQI in jail and encourages him to keep his head up. He also informs him that the job they had been preparing for has been done, to which MQOQI heaped praise on him. But SAMBULO made it clear that he doesn't do it for the praise but for the protection of the family. After that, SAMBULO meets with Nkosana to tell him that he doesn't believe the drugs belong to MQOQI. Nkosana instead questions if SAMBULO's involved and why he's been spending so much time with MQOQI. As much as Nkosana dismissed him, I do think SAMBULO's words had an effect on Nkosana because later on in the day, he did tell ZAZA that he doesn't think that MQOQI did it. Back in the house, Nkosana holds another meeting with the older brothers to tell him that the matter of the missing taxis must be resolved. I don't know why, but QHAWE kept quiet in this moment and said nothing about what he had uncovered last week. At NQOBA's tavern, Nzika's girlfriend arrives with a brand new BMW which she claims is insurance or collateral, just in case Nzika doesn't get the money he invested back. Like I said before, his girlfriend is up to no good and refuses to give any details on how her and her so-called partners are flipping the money and how they actually benefit from it. I have a feeling, like I said before, either they're running a longer scam where she's gonna end up taking him for all the money after she's made some profit for him and he puts it back, or they might actually be replacing legitimate money for counterfeit bills. Nzika is too trusting in my opinion. After MQOQI fails to make bail, ZAZA realizes it's gone too far and finally comes clean to Nkosana. She confesses it was her and MANDISA that put the drugs in the taxi in an attempt to get them to Durban on BULI's request. After receiving this information, Nkosana calls NQOBA and tells him to get rid of any fingerprints on the taxi. Still at the main house, Hlomu asks MQHELE if the family had any involvement in the commissioner's assassination, but MQHELE insists that he knows nothing. I'm not sure if they really don't know that SAMBULO did the hit or they're just being ignorant, because Nkosana also acted the whole episode like he didn't know it was SAMBULO who had done the hit. But then again, SAMBULO has done this before. He assassinated a couple of other taxi bosses back in the first season without the knowledge of his brothers. Back at the filling station, the Majola brothers, their drivers and other owners are interrogating the owner and manager of the filling station to find out who vandalized their taxis. The manager ultimately concedes that it was QHAWE, and the episode ends with the Majola brothers leading an angry mob to go exact revenge from the Zulu brothers. Episode 14 opens up with NQOBA receiving a call from one of their drivers, warning him and his brothers not to come to the taxi rank because the taxi owners are up in arms after QHAWE vandalized their taxis. Back at the house, Nkosana calls a meeting so that Zandile can confess to the family about the drugs. Only MQHELE, Hlomu, and SAMBULO were present, but SAMBULO was visibly the most disappointed and did a great job selling this scene. Thereafter, Nkosana calls NQOBA to confirm that he had cleaned all the fingerprints off the taxi and he offers him 250,000 rand, $250,000, to get MQOQI out of jail. NQOBA arrives at the house to confront QHAWE about his actions, which he tries to justify by saying they were provoked, but it appears he made a big mistake because he targeted various owners' taxis instead of just the Majolas, and this is why they are in danger. Nkosana orders the brothers to mobilize and fetch all the family members so they can lay low until the heat dies down. At NQOBA's tavern, MANDISA and ZAZA meet up to discuss how they're gonna deal with losing BULI's drugs. BULI arrives and demands they give her stuff because it didn't arrive in Durban. ZAZA informs her that the drugs were seized by the police, and BULI informs her that they will pay with their lives if they don't return the drugs or refund the people she works for. ZAZA tells BULI that she'll ask Nkosana for the money to pay back the drugs, but it's a lot of money we're talking about. After BULI leaves, SAMBULO arrives to fetch the ladies, which resulted in the funniest scene of the day so far. MQHELE arrives at Hlomu's job to pick her up. Once again, she failed to answer her phone when MQHELE called and turned down Boto's kindness, who offered to take her out for lunch, but instead she opted to go to the taxi rank for some cow head meat. Buntle tells MQHELE that Hlomu has gone to the taxi rank and he panics quickly, calling QHAWE to track where she is. It's at this point that we find out how MQHELE always knows where Hlomu is and is able to stalk her. There is a tracker on Hlomu. It is either in her watch or the car, or maybe even both, because they were gifts from MQHELE. MQHELE arrives just in time to save his wife and engage in an awesome shootout, pulling off some very slick action moves. They manage to escape barely. The episode ends with a huge scare for one of the fan favorites, as NQOBA arrives to confront the angry mob of taxi owners led by the Majolas. He is shot in their chest by the older Majola brothers and has to be quickly taken away by security. Episode 15 opens up with a wounded NQOBA being brought to the Zulu home, where MANDISA, as always, puts on another amazing performance. I love this scene, but I kept thinking, why are they wasting time? They could be using the time to take him to the hospital. And I question why the security guards took him to the house first instead of straight to the hospital. In the aftermath of NQOBA's shooting, the mood is very low. Nkosana informs MANDISA and ZAZA that thankfully NQOBA is still alive but in ICU after a successful operation. While ZAZA's comforting her bestie, BULI arrives at the house. She arrives beaten up and begs ZAZA to do something because she's in fear of her life. ZAZA promises she'll ask Nkosana for the money. ZAZA does ask Nkosana for the money, but he firmly rejects taking any money out to help BULI. ZAZA is shocked, and so was I, because I feel like this is something that might bounce back on Nomusa in jail. BULI still has friends in jail, and Nomusa's cellmate is one of those friends, so if she finds out that Zandile could have helped her and didn't, or that she's the main reason she got hurt, it might cause a problem for Nomusa in jail. I have to mention there was a little slip up. They accidentally put 2 takes from the same scene in the episode. In the first take, MQHELE arrives angry that QHAWE almost got Hlomu killed. But in the second take, MQHELE arrives angry at QHAWE that he almost got NQOBA killed, which is the one I think they meant to go with. I just think there was a little slight error in editing, which happens to the best of us. Next, we have Ntika, who seems to be back to square one with his girlfriend, who's not answering his calls after he blindly handed her more money to flip. It's at this moment that MQOQI actually returns home and puts a smile on his face. But even before they told him that NQOBA had been shot, MQOQI seemed to be in very low spirits. This episode, I have to say, flew by very quickly. There wasn't much that happened, but it ended with explosives. Nkosana calls another family meeting to inform the rest of the family that NQOBA is recovering in ICU. As QHAWE tries to apologize for his part in causing the incident, MQHELE confronts him and tensions rise. With the whole family watching on, QHAWE announces to MQHELE's face that he slept with his wife, Hlomu. As everyone looked on in disbelief, Hlomu stayed quiet, which gave MQHELE all the confirmation he needed. The episode ends with MQHELE attacking his younger brother for his actions. It's a whole lot of drama. It's a telenovela. This week's episode had to be my favorites of the season so far. Let me know how you liked them in the comments section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll be back in heavy attendance next week with another review. This is ASR, for the love of African filmmaking and storytelling.